Okay, cool. Okay, so this is our sixth town hall now. So basically the structure is we have updates for all the things that happened last week, and then plans for the current week, what we're going to do, and talk a little bit about the plans and get a good idea of what's going to happen this week. Just an update for the last week. So we finalized the sort of incorporation application, and Richard should be able to process the application today. So have the payment for the application processed today, and that should mean that we have to then upload some documents then to accompany that application as well. So they said 3 to 4 days for incorporation. So I'm hoping over the next week or two that we should be officially a incorporated company in Singapore. Fingers crossed if everything goes well. In terms of Discourse setup, I was just saying to Richard earlier that there were some issues with mail servers and so on that we were using. And so there has been a little bit of a delay. I think the bug has been fixed. I tried to fix it this morning, and so I should be able to get it up and running, Discourse up and running later on today. And then we can look into maybe setting up the SourceCred instance to point also to the Discourse page. Gitcoin Grant, we have a Gitcoin Grant up live on round 12, I think. And we've been actually getting a good number of contributors contributing to it. I could check quickly how it's doing. But last time I checked, there was about 39 contributors that contributed about 120 something, which, yeah, so 46 contributors now that contributed $130, which means at the current state of the quadratic funding, that should match to about $438, and that could go up or down depending on how the rest of the round plays out. So it would be, I think it's, the way it works is that you get the total of the both contributors and the estimated quadratic funding, matched quadratic funding. So that should leave us right now with about 500-ish, $560-ish, which is great. I think for the first time we've sort of put a grant up in Gitcoin.
Do you know how long it goes on for?
I think it's December 16th is the last date. So we've only been 4 days and we've already have contributors, like 46 contributors contributing, which is, I think, a good sign. I was looking at some of the other projects that are also kind of well known, not getting that many contributors. I think it's a good sign that 46 people in 4 days contributing to the project is a good sign that people are interested in what we're doing. So I think it's December 16th is the last date on that.
Yeah,
I can't. The voice is gone again.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's like a last minute thing. I wonder if we'll get some last minute contributions, for example, or do people tend to do it at the start or whatever?
I'm not sure actually. I'm not sure how the Gitcoin funding works in general. It's like the first time I've interacted with it, so I'm not sure is the answer. But I think it would be great to like even get close to in total $1,000, because we were essentially planning to use the funding from Gitcoin to put up bounties on Gitcoin. So and so it becomes maybe a sustainable loop where we can raise funds from Gitcoin to fund projects, earn bounties on Gitcoin itself. And if we get that every funding round, I think that would be a great like sort of sustainable loop to get people involved in our community and get some work done in a way that other people get rewarded for it. And it's a source of funding for us as well to essentially cover the bounties.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me see. Then I also set up Coordinape and been set up like a circle with Jakub So I need to test it out in terms of dispersing any funds and so on. So I haven't got a chance to get around to testing it, but I've got it set up essentially with an Algovera account, and I've added Richard as well. I can add you, Keaton, as well, so that the three of us can essentially peer sort of based model of contribution for really active contributors. So yeah, so that's something I need to do for this week, just to test it out. We had the hacking session last week. So I believe we tested publishing, did we? No. Can you give us a brief update, Richard? And is that it finished now, the hacking session for generative R?
Yeah, it's kind of like we just trained our generative model using computed data. So we did it privately and also published the algorithm on the marketplace. And so I'm thinking, well, I guess I'll discuss more of the plans next. But yeah, it's pretty much, it's a wrap on us trying to get up to speed with the computed data infrastructure and stuff like that. And anything that we do from now will be more about, like building an app around that model or something like that.
Okay, cool. And then we also had the DeFi hacking session as well last week, which I watched the recording, and it seemed to have gone really well. A lot of great ideas floating.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like you said, Hitesh, it was like a good mix of different backgrounds of like data science, commercial, and DeFi. And so I'm learning a lot about DeFi, I suppose, because it's like a very different type of data to work with and stuff. And so yeah, I'm hoping I get the time to like get my hands dirty with Dune analytics and things like this. And yeah, I guess like, so usually for the first 2 weeks of the generative art hacking sessions, we just kind of chatted and tried to figure out a problem to solve. So I'm expecting it's going to be similar with the DeFi hacking sessions.
Okay.
And then at some stage we'll come up with a problem and then start to solve it, hopefully, and hopefully it's something valuable.
Great. Any other business in terms of updates from last week? Anything you want to mention? Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so in terms of plans for this week, I think one of the things that we should try and test out is, so we got to the stage where you can form a DAO with people that have contributed to a project, and you can sort of essentially set a DAO token, which is a representation of the representation of the governance that person has in the DAO itself. So it's like a company-based model and we used Argon as a framework to summon the DAO. But one thing I really want to test is if we sort of build this algorithm and we want to publish it to Ocean, can we publish it using the DAO as the sort of address that publishes it, and then how do we sort of control the liquidity and treasury or whatever reward that comes out of the algorithm itself. So that's something I really want to get the proof of concept out of the way for. Do you have any initial thoughts on that, Richard?
Yeah, I guess that we need to do this for the OceanDAO deliverables, which either Tuesday or Wednesday we have to submit that. I mean, it's not the end of the world if it's like a day or two after, I guess. And also the other comment is that like Robin is working on this with Data Union, as I said. And so I think he's actually like, they're creating smart contracts to do this. So it'll be good to sync with them on that and see if we can collaborate, come up with a solution together.
Yeah, I think depending on how Ocean workflow is, if we can make it like super easy to essentially publish using the DAO's agent feature, where like where you essentially can be a representative of the DAO while publishing the algorithm. I think figuring that out would be really, really easy. Then then means that decisions made by the DAO can be executed on in terms of like how much reward they want to take out from the Ocean liquidity pool, or whatever the way like the DAO decides to reward themselves, there's a governance layer built into it. So this is like, I mean, we don't have the whole solution now, but hopefully this week we'll be able to get a bit more clarity and know what the essentially the workflow is for that DAO to do that.
Quick question on this. So sorry, you said the platform we settled on was Aragon. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I checked out DAO House. The user interface wasn't great. It wasn't, I don't know, I just didn't feel it was intuitive. And then there's also the like couple of other features in the in Aragon, which makes it like really simple to transfer like sort of Ocean to and from the account treasury, the DAO treasury, and also they have that agent feature, which I need to play a little bit more around with, which essentially allows you to act on behalf of the DAO. So you don't have, the DAO doesn't have to trust some person to, essentially the DAO provides them with some funds and they do something with the fund and put the fund back into the DAO essentially. So you don't have to trust on a third person to do certain thing. The third person can essentially invoke something on behalf of the DAO, and there's a trigger call which goes back to the DAO to vote on that execution essentially. So I think that was a neat feature, and just the way that Aragon is laid out, I think it's a lot more intuitive for people, especially people who are not familiar with DAOs. I think it'll be a lot more easier for people to use Aragon.
Cool. It looks like Aragon's open source too, which is helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so that brings us also on to the second point is like, I think we should set up the DAO for the generative art algorithm, and maybe we also want to talk about the reward mechanism for like how we want to distribute the funds that we said we could think about for the DAOs. I think making it I think a possible like approach here is like, this is the first time we've done it. I think maybe we can just go for a simple model of distributing funds, and that anyone who's participated gets an equal share, because I think this was more of an exploratory hacking session where we were also trying to figure out like a lot of the things, how it works. So there wasn't a lot of opportunity for others to get involved. And I think just maybe splitting it equally between participants, anybody who's participated, and setting up the DAO that way might be a better approach, rather than trying to find out like objectively like how much they contributed. Maybe we can do that for the upcoming hacking sessions, but I feel like for this one it just makes things simpler if we can do like a simpler model of distributing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
makes sense.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, so do we want to, look at what source cred produced in terms of cred for the generative art, and just like, sort of take a look at that, not in terms of using it for compensation, but just to see how well it captured value and maybe tweak that a bit? Again, since it's retroactive, there's flexibility there. Like, do we kind of want to explore that at all, or are we just assign value and move on to the next project?
I think the thing here is that like with the hacking sessions in the generative art model, it was more of education than a hacking session itself, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think we're going to see a lot of distribution of or like a distributed like value chain from all people. I think it's going to be largely focused on Richard, who is doing most of the work in trying to like essentially get the basic steps up and running. And so I don't think we're going to find a lot of value from the source credit itself, right? So,
but even saying that, Hitesh, like I had a look at it, and like, of course, it was expected that I'd be doing most of the work, but if that hadn't been expected, it didn't look like I was as far ahead as I felt it should have looked, I guess. Okay. And so
interesting. I'm gonna take a look as well.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So it could be useful to look into. I think it would be really interesting, because even like, we don't even know what actions get cred scores. Like, for example, do people who comment on like an issue, do they get some sort of creds? I think it would be interesting to analyze as a use case.
Yeah. So in terms of doing that, like in terms of the weights and configuring those, you have to spin up the source code instance locally to configure those. So if y'all ever want to do like a review of what our weights are, the source grid has a really nifty built-in UI. So I can like spin that up locally and share with y'all. We can take a look at actually like what are the weights, what are the actions, and we can play around with them. So if we ever want to set that up, happy to do that.
I think we can analyze it quite quickly as well. I don't think there's going to be a huge amount of data to analyze. Like we might be able to do it in like half a day or less.
Totally.
Or like that.
Yeah. Could we also like look at specific in like GitHub repos and how the distribution was, how the distribution of cred was in there? So in terms of, you know, what I'm looking at in with the source cred now is like the total value of cred and grain for all of you know, Discord and GitHub, all repos on GitHub as well. And so it's not a representation of the generative art project itself. So I was wondering if there is like if there was a way to just isolate the generative art repo itself and look at the cred distribution and value distribution there itself.
Yeah, totally. We can do that either just spinning it up locally just to look and see what it's like, or we can make those changes and actually push it to production. But yeah, the answer is yeah, we can totally narrow it down to just a single repo or multiple or whatever we want. But yeah, like you said, it's at the moment just tracking the handbook, generative art, and then onshore as well. So again, I just kind of like put all the repos that were initially in our GitHub, but yeah, we can absolutely narrow it down or be a little more granular on that.
Cool. So the conclusion is that we can take a look at the distribution of value from some sort of, or capture of value from source cred, but essentially have a equal split of the funds to anybody who's participated. Maybe it's like whatever amount we said divided by the number of people who participated, and each person gets that share.
So do you, yeah, that's the other thing in terms of contributions. Is it anyone who joined a hacking session, or like?
I think it's reasonable enough. Like it's almost like for participating in a hacking session itself. I doubt it's going to be more than 10 people.
What about people who like watched the videos async?
Yeah, that's tricky. So we actually won't know who watched and who didn't watch. So I think maybe an easier way to do it is whoever was at the live event or contributed to the GitHub repo in some way.
Yeah. Could we say something like, I don't know, anyone who watched async reach out? And I know it's tough to verify. Yeah,
it's tough to verify, and anyone could.
I would just point out, like, totally don't want to, discount and, leave folks out who weren't able to make the live sessions. But I think part of the value of being like actually in the live session is you're able to contribute and bounce ideas off. So although watching the session is definitely helpful and we encourage that, I do think there is like a bit of a different value add from being in the live session.
I also think that as well. I also think like people who came to the live session put in more effort essentially. Like sometimes people might not have the time flexibility to watch it in live. If they didn't watch it live, I think in order for like in the first step, we're not going to like completely capture everybody who provided value and distribute funds accordingly. We might have inefficiencies there, but I think people who came to the sessions or people who contributed to the GitHub is like essentially the people that provided value, and I think we should reward that because I think it's harder to justify another case. And we haven't been like we haven't given a lot of information about like how the rewarding of it was going to be as well. So that's not ideal. So maybe like even for the next time we like essentially like want to reward hacking session contributors or whatever, maybe we should like plan beforehand so people can know beforehand.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking as well, I think there is one guy who didn't go to any of the hacking sessions, but I think he like pushed something to the GitHub. So like that can be what we say, like even if he didn't go, even if you weren't there live, he could have like posted in the GitHub like an issue or something. Yeah. So
Yeah. One other thing to note is Discord is now hooked up to source cred. So that's also counting Discord contributions as well. If we want to, and I was going to bring that up, Richard, like maybe that's why potentially you weren't as far ahead as you thought, although you're really active in Discord too. But that's one other thing to think about is like, we can point the Discord and the Discord plugin, like maybe just at the generative art channel and gauge like involvement in that. That's kind of a separate question, like how much, if someone like didn't push anything to any repos, they didn't show up to any live hacking sessions, but they were really active in Discord conversations, is that valuable? How do you want to look at that? But that's just one thing to note about source cred scores is it is taking into account Discord at this point.
Yeah. I think, I could be wrong, but I think I looked before the Discord was hooked up. And I think it was like, I was first in like with 7 cred. And then in second place was Rish with like 3 cred or something. And then I think Hitesh, you had 1 cred. And so
cred has gone up a lot since the Discord integration has gone in. And again, keep in mind it's retroactive, so we can always change that. But I also just left the default Discord weights. So there's that as well. But yeah, if you look now, it's the cred scores are way bigger because there's been more activity in Discord than there has in the GitHub repos. So that might also be something that we want to tinker around with, or that I can tinker around with. But yeah, just something to keep in mind as we're sort of like looking at who's contributing and who's providing value.
Yeah, it'll be useful to look at all this stuff in a bit more detail. Yeah, totally. I think we will learn from it. So
yeah, I think like to cut it short and like try and essentially not spend too long at this problem. I think general rule of thumb here is either you were at the hacking session or you contributed to GitHub in some way, and then we can look at all the other information just for the sake of looking at it. But in terms of distributing funds, maybe that's just the 2 criteria that we want to look at, because there's no point like spending an awful lot of time at this.
Sounds good.
Okay, and essentially, do we want to like essentially distribute the funds directly to people's wallet? Yeah.
Which funds?
Like for the generative art, or do we want to put it into the DAO?
I think put it into the DAO. So like we're going to be minting algorithm tokens and we're going to be minting LP tokens. And so I guess we were saying before, the question before was, do we just distribute those algorithm tokens and those LP tokens? Do we split them to everyone and send them directly to their wallets? Or does the DAO keep all of those? And then we give the DAO tokens to the individuals. And then that has some sort of claim to the value. I think the second one is probably easier as a first step. Like I don't know which one we're going to do in the long term.
Yeah. Okay, so put the funds into a DAO, add all the contributors who participated in the hacking session in some way to the DAO.
Yeah.
With equal votes. Cool. Okay. Yeah, that's all done. Okay. We'll get around to that this week. Then the DeFi hacking set. Sorry, Richard, what were you saying?
I was just saying we can like to answer the question of which is better, we can run some like simulations with Token Spice to see what the value accruing over time looks like and stuff like that. It's probably quite a big question.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Maybe we can talk about this a little bit more detail in the tokenomics pod.
Yeah.
Then the next thing is the DeFi hacking session. So I think you were mentioning that general idea is to like have a more exploratory conversation and finalize on a problem for this week.
Yeah, like we almost got to the point where we defined a problem, but then at the end we kind of disagreed again. So yeah, I think maybe one more session is needed to really like map out what we want to do, and then we can start doing some coding, looking at the data and that sort of stuff. I guess one point to note is that I'm already hacking on the generative art sessions, and Wednesdays tend to be pretty busy for me in terms of meetings. So I'm not going to have as much time to prepare for those DeFi hacking sessions. And also I don't know as much about the data. And so it'll be interesting to see how that works. And hopefully others dig in more with things, I suppose.
Yeah, I think you're taking a less of a step back, or you're taking more of a step back, I should say, in terms of like leading the sessions, I suppose. that's a good thing, because eventually we want these projects to run without any of our involvement. Also, just to note, like I think Christian, Greg, and there was Jakub as well. So that there's two Jakubs there's two Jakubs in the DeFi session. I think all of them actually were quite active contributors in the project. So I think even though you're taking a step back, I think if they all sort of show up again for this week, I think there should be an active project there.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm like, this is what we need to do. This is what the plan was anyway, to have more different people contributing. So it's a good test case.
Did you wanted to say anything there, Keaton? I saw you unmuted yourself there.
No, I was just kind of thinking as y'all were talking about that. No, yeah, fine.
No worries. Okay, cool. So the next thing is that I was thinking maybe we can update the website a little bit. I think we've got a little bit more clarity in terms of what we are and what we do and so on. So I think some of the things in the website might change. And I'm doing that in preparation for opening up an engineering position and maybe a full stack position that have with somebody who has familiarity with blockchain development as well. So Kit and I was actually thinking of maybe we could post it into the consensus jobs and opportunities channel in Discord as like a first order thing to do. And then we could advertise a position and then aim for hiring maybe January or February. If we have like a good amount of time to filter out participants and look at and interview applicants, I should say, and especially coming up to the holiday season, I think it's going to take a little bit more time to reach out and conduct interviews and look through these applicants. So I think it would be good to like start advertising early and get as many people applying and look through the best ones and find the right person.
Yeah. So is there a plan to solidify funding prior to posting the job, or is there? Okay. So is the goal to like?
I'm sort of planning to do in parallel. So our hope is that we have all the prep done for fundraising in December, initiate fundraising process in January, close it by February, and in parallel, the thing we should try and do is advertise a position in December, get as many applicants in January, and then maybe finalize on a person in February, and then they can start end of February maybe, or sooner if we have other sources of funding that they're happy to jump on board earlier and we find the right person earlier.
Awesome. Makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I think like we figured out like the best case scenario where we can like get up to the highest grants from Ocean that we could support more than just the three of us. And so like maybe every grant that we get, maybe we could talk about like what the hiring strategy would look like if we found a really good blockchain developer, for example. So I think we might be able to support more people even without like raising VC and stuff. So we should definitely try and run those numbers.
Yep. Then so that's the advertising position. So I'm going to try and work on that a little bit today, or a little bit this week. And then number 5 is sort of maybe we should start giving the community guidance on the Create Track project. So how can they like get funding for their own projects? What's the process like? We kind of discussed the Create Track a little bit last week or the week before on like what kind of flow we want for the people to go through, and we said we like decided upon like a very simple format. There could be a vote in Snapshot, and we transfer 50% upfront and then 50% on deliverable, using maybe something like a smart invoice by Raid Guild. And so maybe we should try and communicate, finalize on what the flow is, and then communicate it with the community and start gathering interest from the community on project, whether we want to do one or whether we want to do two or more.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess like the money for this is coming from the OceanDAO grants, right? And so I can't remember what amounts we said. I think we were thinking of asking for 28 this time, up from 20 last time. And we would use, for example, 5 of that for community grants. And so I guess we can start that before we know that we get the OceanDAO. I don't think we've fully mapped out what that would look like as well. So it would be useful for us. Like maybe we can hold a community event to present it to people or something like that. Maybe that's not necessary. Maybe we can just do it async. But yeah, just to start to gather interest on who's interested in submitting projects and things like that will be good.
Yeah, I think so, because we've kind of finished on the first session, training sessions, and so maybe we could start rolling out the create track projects now. Now that that's kind of done, they have something to sort of essentially look as an example and on YouTube playlist and figure out on their own what they want to do. So yeah, that'd be good, I think.
Something that we can really advertise as well. Like we've never had grants funding to advertise before, and so we can like circulate it quite widely, and that might actually bring more people into the community as well.
True.
So, yeah.
True. So start thinking about the guidance for the create track this week, I guess, is one of our objectives. So I'm going to be trying to work on the investor pitch deck. Again, this is part of the prep for fundraising for the January and February. So there's investor pitches and like sort of a pitch deck and the company in question banks. Question bank would be like my first thing to do in terms of preparation. I've already sort of compiled a list of potential investors that we can reach out to and so on. But like the main thing is to have a clear way of communicating what we're building to investors. So I'm hoping to work on that this week. I'll let you know how that goes. Then
when was the kernel? Was that next week?
That is on the 14th of December. I think the showcase is on the 14th. I think we have a rehearsal before that as well. So that will be, we might meet some investors there as well. So it's 14, let me just check now. So the 14th is the dress rehearsals and the actual event is on the 17th of December. So again, like the pitch deck that we're developing could be used in that showcase as well, and hopefully we can meet some investors there as well. And then we're going to talk about applying for the OceanDAO grant, which is Wednesday. Is that what you said, Richard?
It's either Tuesday or Wednesday. I think Wednesday.
Right. Okay. Cool.
But there's still some deliverables. I need to write a blog post. We need to do some docs on the DAO, what we're thinking with the DAOs. And like you said before, Hitesh, that can be really rudimentary. I don't know where we'll put it, maybe on Notion or something like that. But apart from that, I think everything is pretty much done. Like once we launch the DAO and stuff. And so just need to think about what we're going to apply for with the grants for next round. So what I'm thinking at the moment is something like more app based. So like turn the model into an app, like a demonstrator that we can show to people. And like that involves like having the Ocean marketplace in the back end and stuff. So we'll learn from that. I guess it's a little bit more uncertain, like what sort of challenges will come up against in that, but I'd say we can figure it out with the hacking sessions every week and all that sort of stuff. So, and I think it would be something that people in the Ocean community would be interested in as well, like creating an app for a machine learning model, using some framework like Gradio that I was talking to you about, Hitesh, which is the one that's used by Hugging Face, and potentially like getting some interest from the Hugging Face community because we're using like similar framework to them or something like that. But yeah, I'll work on that like probably tomorrow, first draft. and I can circulate it.
Cool. Awesome. That sounds good. Just while you were saying that, I was thinking of another thing that comes under like AOB is like, so I think we have a good amount of things that we've published to say YouTube and things that haven't been updated on Notion just because of time constraints. I think there's a good bit to be updated on the Notion page itself. Just linking back to the YouTube videos and so on, and the juntos we've done, and linking that on. So essentially, organizing everything in a Notion and updating everything needs to also happen. I've sort of delayed this because we're looking to move the Notion page itself to be hosted from the Algovera account. So rather than, it's hosted on my personal account right now, so which is not ideal. So we're going to move it to the Algovera account, and there's some things to be done in terms of setting up the community directory and automation and so on. So I was just waiting until that to update it. So hopefully, if everything goes to plan, we should be able to update that this week as well.
Cool. Quick update on the community directory. We can chat about this later as well, Hitesh, but in terms of the access control for updating pages and stuff, upgrading to like an enterprise plan or switching it to hosted on an Algovera account is going to be useful for that. There are some features of the Notion API that are only available to the enterprise plan, and those features involve they're access control features. So all the specific stuff we're looking for is only available with the enterprise Notion API plan. So we'll be able to make some progress on that as well, and we can chat more about that later.
Yeah, I'll chat to you about that later today, maybe. But yeah, that's everything in terms of the agenda. Is there anything else anybody wants to say?
I was just thinking there, the roadmap pod later, Hitesh. I don't know, did Jakob get onto you about moving that by an hour? Or did he only
no.
Okay, yeah, he asked if we could change by an hour.
Yeah, sure, I can do an hour later.
Okay.
So it would be 7. Oh, sorry, an hour early. 5?
Well, whichever. He just said push it by an hour.
Oh, so does he mean like earlier or later?
I didn't know what he meant. Okay. I guess maybe let's try push earlier.
Yeah,
if that's going to work, maybe we can.
I'll get on to him about that and sort it out.
Sweet.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, can finish it up there, wrap it up there.